My childless sister told my twin boys their real mom was coming to get them, then showed up at their school, claiming I was dead. Now my whole family thinks I'm being cruel. Hi everyone, I'm Mark, and I need to share what happened to me and my twin boys because I'm still trying to process how someone I trusted could do something so twisted and cruel. This story involves my sister Amanda, and what she did was so unthinkable that even now, 3 months later, I can barely believe it happened. But I need to tell this story because my family is painting me as the villain, and I'm starting to question my own sanity. Let me give you some background first. I'm a 32-year-old single dad to 7-year-old twin boys, Jake and Luke. Their mom, my ex-wife Sarah, passed away in a car accident when the boys were just 4 years old. It's been the three of us ever since, and while it's been incredibly challenging raising 2 kids on my own, we've built a really strong bond. The boys are everything to me. My sister Amanda is 35 and has never had children. She's been married to her husband Tom for about 8 years, and they've been trying to have kids for most of that time. They've gone through multiple rounds of IVF, suffered several miscarriages, and it's been really hard on both of them. I've always tried to be supportive, and Amanda has been great with my boys over the years, or so I thought. After Sarah died, Amanda stepped up in a big way. She helped with babysitting, took the boys on outings, and seemed to genuinely love being their aunt. She'd often say things like, "I love being able to spoil them and then give them back to you," which I thought was normal aunt behavior. The boys adored her, called her Aunt Mandy, and always got excited when she came over. But looking back now, there were signs I should have noticed. Amanda would sometimes make comments about how the boys needed a mother figure and how it wasn't natural for them to be raised by just a dad. She'd criticize my parenting choices, saying things like, "Sarah would have done it differently," or "The boys need a woman's touch." At the time, I thought she was just trying to help, maybe processing her own grief about Sarah's death. Amanda also had this habit of buying the boys extremely expensive gifts, stuff I couldn't afford on my teacher's salary. Xbox games, designer clothes, expensive toys. When I'd tell her it was too much, she'd say she just wanted to spoil her nephews. She'd also make comments like, "Someone needs to make sure these boys have nice things," which felt like a dig at my financial situation, but I let it slide because I appreciated her help. The first real red flag came about 6 months ago. I was picking up the boys from Amanda's house after she'd babysat them for the evening, and Jake said something that made my stomach drop. He asked me, "Daddy, why did Aunt Mandy say our real mom is coming back someday?" I was confused and asked him what he meant. Jake said that Amanda had told both boys that their real mom was in heaven, but that she might come back to take care of them someday, and that I was just taking care of them for now. Luke chimed in and said Amanda had told them that their real mom was looking for the right time to come get them. I was furious. I sat the boys down and explained that I was their real dad, that Sarah was their real mom, but she had died and wasn't coming back, and that Amanda had made a mistake. The boys seemed confused, and I could tell Amanda's words had planted some doubt in their minds about our family situation. I called Amanda immediately and confronted her about it. She claimed it was a misunderstanding and that she'd just been trying to help the boys process their grief about their mom. She said she'd been talking about how their mom was watching over them from heaven and that maybe they'd misunderstood. It sounded plausible, so I let it go, but I made it clear that she needed to be more careful about how she talked to them about Sarah. But the comments didn't stop. Over the next few months, the boys would come home from visits with Amanda with strange ideas. They'd ask me why I never took them on real vacations like other families, They'd ask if Amanda could be their second mom, since they didn't have one. They started comparing everything I did to what Amanda said real families did. The breaking point came 2 months ago. I was having a particularly stressful week at work. Report cards were due, parent conferences were scheduled, and I was pulling long hours. Amanda offered to pick up the boys from school on Friday and keep them for the weekend so I could catch up on work. I was grateful for the help and agreed. Friday evening, Amanda texted me that the boys were having so much fun that she wanted to take them somewhere special on Saturday. Maybe a day trip to the zoo or an amusement park. I said that was fine, just to make sure they were home by Sunday evening for school the next week. Saturday came and went with no updates from Amanda. I texted her a few times asking how the day was going, but she just sent back generic responses like, "Having a great time," and "Boys are loving it." I figured they were just busy and having fun. Sunday morning, I called Amanda to check in and see when she'd be bringing the boys home. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I tried several more times throughout the day. Nothing. By Sunday evening, I was starting to panic. I drove to Amanda's house, but no one was there. The house was dark, and their cars weren't in the driveway. I called Tom, Amanda's husband, and he said Amanda had told him she was taking the boys on a surprise adventure and that they'd be back Sunday night, but it was already 9 p.m. and there was no sign of them. Tom seemed confused and said he'd try calling Amanda too. By Monday morning, I was frantic. The boys hadn't come home, they weren't answering their phones, they each had basic cell phones for emergencies, and Amanda was completely unreachable. I was about to call the police when my phone rang. It was the principal at Jake and Luke's school, Mrs. Henderson. She said there had been a situation and that I needed to come to the school immediately. She wouldn't give me details over the phone, but her tone made it clear something serious had happened. When I got to the school, Mrs. Henderson took me into her office and closed the door. She looked incredibly uncomfortable and said, "Mr. Thompson, I need to ask you a difficult question. Are you alive?" I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. What kind of question is that? Of course I'm alive. I'm sitting right here talking to you. Mrs. Henderson nodded and said, "That's what I thought. But we had a very concerning situation this morning. A woman came to the school claiming to be the boys' aunt, saying that you had died over the weekend and that she was here to pick them up and take them to live with her." My blood turned to ice. "What woman?" "She said her name was Amanda, that she was your sister. She had identification and seemed to know details about the boys' lives. She was very convincing and very emotional, crying about having to tell the children that their father had died. She said there had been a car accident over the weekend." I couldn't breathe. "Where are my boys? Please, tell me you didn't let her take them." Mrs. Henderson quickly assured me that they had followed protocol. They had asked Amanda to wait while they tried to contact me and verify the information. When my phone went straight to voicemail, I'd been driving and hadn't heard it ring. They became suspicious and asked Amanda for more documentation. "That's when her story started to fall apart," Mrs. Henderson explained. "She couldn't provide a death certificate or any official documentation about your alleged death. She became increasingly agitated and started demanding that we release the children to her immediately. She said the boys were expecting her and that she'd already explained the situation to them." Mrs. Henderson said that's when they realized something was very wrong. They quietly moved Jake and Luke to a secure area of the school and called the police. When officers arrived, Amanda initially tried to maintain her story, but eventually broke down and admitted that I wasn't actually dead. "Mr. Thompson," Mrs. Henderson said gently, "your sister told the boys that you had died. She told them she was there to take them to their new home with her. Jake and Luke were absolutely hysterical. They were crying and asking if it was true, if their daddy was really dead like their mommy. I felt like I was going to be sick. My own sister had traumatized my children by telling them I was dead, just so she could try to take them away from me. The cruelty of it was beyond comprehension. The police had arrested Amanda for attempted kidnapping, filing false reports, and child endangerment. She was currently in jail awaiting bail. The boys were safe at school, but they were traumatized and confused. When I saw Jake and Luke, they ran to me crying and hugging me like they'd never let go. "Daddy, Daddy, we thought you were dead," Jake sobbed. "Aunt Mandy said you died like Mommy and that she was our new mom now." Luke was shaking and kept asking, "You're not dead, right, Daddy? You're not going to leave us like Mommy did?" It broke my heart into a million pieces. Through their tears, the boys told me what had happened over the weekend. Amanda had taken them to a hotel about 3 hours away and told them it was a special adventure. On Saturday night, she sat them down and told them that I had been in a car accident and died, just like their mom. She said she was going to be their new mom and that they were going to live with her and Uncle Tom from now on. The boys had been devastated and crying all night. Amanda had told them that this was God's plan and that their real mom in heaven had sent her to take care of them. She said I had been just watching them temporarily until their real mom could find someone better to raise them. On Sunday, instead of bringing them home like she'd promised me, Amanda had taken them to look at houses in a different town. She told them they were going to pick out their new home. When the boys said they wanted to go back to me, Amanda told them that wasn't possible because I was dead and buried. Monday morning, Amanda had driven them to school and told them to be brave when she told their teachers and classmates that their dad had died. She said everyone would be very sad for them, but that she would take care of them now. The psychological damage Amanda had inflicted on my boys was enormous. They'd spent an entire weekend believing I was dead, processing that grief, and being told their entire life was about to change. They'd been forced to say goodbye to everything they knew, all based on Amanda's lies. I immediately took the boys to a child psychologist to help them process what had happened. Dr. Martinez explained that what Amanda had done was a form of psychological abuse, and that the boys would need ongoing therapy to deal with the trauma of being told their remaining parent had died. But here's where the story gets even more infuriating. When word got out about Amanda's arrest, my family's reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of being horrified by what she'd done, they rallied around her. My mother called me the day Amanda was arrested and said, "Mark, you need to drop these charges. Amanda is family, and she's been through enough with her fertility struggles. She just loves those boys," and made a mistake. A mistake? She told my children I was dead and tried to kidnap them. My dad called next and said Amanda was going through a difficult time and that I was being cruel by having her arrested. He said Amanda had explained that she'd just been trying to give the boys a stable home environment and that things had gotten out of hand. Even Tom, Amanda's husband, called to beg me to drop the charges. He said Amanda had had a mental health episode related to her infertility and that she was getting help. He promised it would never happen again and said that pressing charges would destroy her life. The family pressure was intense. My aunts and uncles started calling, saying I was tearing the family apart and that I needed to show mercy to Amanda. They said the boys would be fine, that kids are resilient, and that I was being vindictive by involving the legal system. My mother even suggested that maybe Amanda had been right about the boys needing a mother figure, and that perhaps I should consider letting Amanda have a bigger role in raising them. She said it was unnatural for the boys to only have a father, and that Amanda could provide the woman's touch they needed. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My family was not only excusing Amanda's behavior, but they were actually suggesting that her twisted logic had merit. They were acting like I was the problem for wanting to protect my children from someone who had psychologically abused them. The breaking point came when my mother told me that if I didn't drop the charges against Amanda, she would disown me and never speak to me again. She said I was choosing revenge over family, and that she couldn't support a son who would destroy his sister's life over a misunderstanding. That's when I realized that my family was just as toxic as Amanda. They were so invested in protecting her that they were willing to sacrifice my children's safety and well-being. They saw Amanda's infertility as an excuse for any behavior, no matter how harmful or illegal. I refused to drop the charges. Amanda pled guilty to attempted kidnapping and received probation, mandatory counseling, and a restraining order requiring her to stay away from me and my boys. She also had to pay for the boys' therapy sessions. My mother kept her promise. She disowned me. So did my father and most of my extended family. They all sided with Amanda, saying I had been heartless and cruel to someone who was just trying to help. The isolation has been incredibly difficult. The boys lost not just their aunt, but their entire extended family on my side. They keep asking why Grandma and Grandpa don't call anymore, why we don't go to family gatherings, why everyone is mad at Daddy. I've tried to explain in age-appropriate terms that sometimes adults make very bad choices and that my job is to keep them safe, even if it makes other people angry. But it's hard to explain to 7-year-olds why their entire family has abandoned them, because I protected them from someone who lied about me being dead. The boys are doing better with therapy, but they still have nightmares sometimes. Jake occasionally asks if I'm really alive, and if I promise not to die. Luke has developed some separation anxiety and gets panicked if I'm even a few minutes late picking him up from school. Dr. Martinez says their reactions are normal given the trauma they experienced, but that they'll likely have trust issues for a while. She's also helped me understand that what Amanda did was a form of parental alienation, systematically undermining my relationship with my children and trying to replace me as their primary attachment figure. Looking back, I can see that Amanda had been grooming the boys for months. The comments about their real mom, the expensive gifts that made me look inadequate, the suggestions that they needed a mother figure. It was all part of a plan to position herself as their rescuer and me as inadequate. Amanda's infertility doesn't excuse what she did. Lots of people struggle with infertility without traumatizing children or attempting kidnapping. Her pain doesn't give her the right to inflict pain on my boys, and my family's failure to understand that shows how deep the dysfunction runs. I've had to build a new support system from scratch. The boys and I have found a great church community. I've connected with other single parents, and we've created our own little chosen family. It's smaller than what we had before, but it's healthier. Some days I wonder if I did the right thing. The guilt is overwhelming sometimes. Did I really need to have my sister arrested? Could I have handled it differently? But then I remember the look on my boys' faces when they thought I was dead, and I know I made the right choice. My job as a father is to protect my children, even from family members who would harm them. Even if it costs me relationships. Even if it makes me the villain in other people's stories. Amanda hasn't tried to contact us since the restraining order was put in place, but I know she's told people that I'm keeping the boys away from her out of spite. She's painted herself as the victim in this story, and unfortunately my family has bought into that narrative. But I know the truth. I know what she did to my boys, And I know that choosing their safety over family approval was the right decision. It's been lonely, and it's been hard, but we're building a good life together. The boys are thriving now. They're doing well in school, they've made new friends, and they're starting to heal from the trauma Amanda inflicted. They still miss their extended family, but they understand that Daddy will always keep them safe, no matter what. To anyone dealing with a similar situation, trust your instincts. Protect your children, even if it costs you relationships. Family members who would sacrifice a child's well-being to protect an abuser are not family worth keeping. And to anyone who thinks I was too harsh on Amanda, imagine someone telling your children that you're dead, then trying to take them away forever. Imagine the trauma your kids would experience. Then ask yourself if that person deserves mercy at your children's expense. I chose my boys. I'll choose them every single time. Thank you for reading our story. Hug your kids tight tonight.